Hello and welcome to Rage Gaming, and yes, launch day of Arc Raiders. This video is the day one overview of the things to be thinking about in your very first load up and your first raids. So it's a pile of relevant, useful tips that should be instantly impactful to know. I'm trying to do it without fluff, so let's begin. So initially, the biggest tip I can give you immediately is in the tutorial. So I hope you've not done the tutorial right now, or you've not opened the game if you're watching this. If not, unlucky, it'll be okay. Ultimately, in the tutorial, there's a lot of good loot. In fact, my friend found his dog collar for Scrappy in the tutorial. So maybe you'll get lucky, whatever. The point is, when you're about to go breach this door, drop everything you have. And I mean literally everything, because you're going to have all of it robbed from you by those raiders. If you drop everything and then finish the cinematic where they rob you, everything that is left on the ground, you can pick it back up and you come out of the tutorial with a bunch of useful stuff. So definitely do that if you still can. Here's the first section, before the raid, or maybe when you're out of a raid. First, Scrappy. Yes, the chicken called Scrappy gives you materials every raid, always collect them, super good. You can upgrade him to improve those collection abilities, and you require specific items. The first upgrade requires a dog collar, search residential areas and loot containers there, or it could also be a loose item on shelves in the same sort of areas. Next, the traders. You need money. Trinkets, or valuables, found in raid have a diamond symbol. Their purpose is to be sold to traders for that main currency. You want the currency for a lot of reasons, like say, buying medium shields. You can also sell higher value items like blues and purples for good money, but the context of what it is you're selling, what it could instead be used for, is important. Trinkets or valuables, just sell them. Next, I want to mention assorted seeds, which can come by breaking down all kinds of nature items or just finding them, found in nature areas. The reason you care about them is because of Celeste. I'm sure you probably know this, but just as a reminder, you can get chemicals, fabric, metal parts, plastic parts, and rubber parts for one assorted seed each from the beginning with Celeste, which in regards to your workshop is getting these things online initially and having the basics to craft, well, the basics. Then obviously we have quests. If you want to track your quests, you can press tab, go to logbook, and this shows you what you currently have. This also shows you currently tracked resources and what it's for. Cool little tip in regards to that, if you're looking for something specific, I'm looking for lemons and apricots. Okay, they can be found in nature. The first map we have is obviously the damn battleground, so we can inspect it and take a look at the map. As I hover over a location, I can learn information about it, like medical and commercial, medical industrial. And say over here in the dome complex, we can see nature, so I know I can go there and potentially find those items. If you are trying to manage a bunch of things at once, like selling a bunch of items, you can fast mark all the items by holding control and then clicking on them each. Then you just right click on one of them at the end when you're ready and fast sell all of them in one quick action. Or a different action based on what you're doing. Now obviously there are quests in the game. You will be able to see which traders are currently offering them by the marker. But when you're in raid, you can also see currently required quest items in your inventory with a special icon, letting you know you probably want to save that material. You can also find quest items before you're even on the quest, but for that you'll need some foreknowledge. It might be worth looking online at like a wiki or a quest list beforehand and making a plan for that. On that note, be aware that you can group complete quests. If you're in a team and you're all on the same quest and someone else interacts with the thing, completing the objective, if you're also on that quest, it will update and complete for you at the same time, which is real nice quality of life. Here's some stash quick tips. The stash space expansion is probably our first main goal and will be one of the first things you want to upgrade. There's a button at the top left of your stash to spend money to expand it. Each time the money will scale, so the first upgrade is not going to be bad, probably coming from just selling basic trinkets in your first run, but it's important to get going and try to be focusing. Another useful tip would be the merge stacks button, which is just to the right of the categories filter. It allows you to quickly sort your inventory and minimize space being taken up. You can also sort loot and your loadout really quick by clicking on an empty slot. For example, you could click on your shield slot and then the stash will quickly offer up all the shields you have in your stash and choose between them. That works on everything. So maybe you want to mod a weapon, click the empty mod slot, fill it with something. Moving on, we will now cover the basics of the workshop. Here you spend resources on creating, then upgrading these different stations. What does each station do? How important is it? So let's start with a workbench, which is kind of the core thing you start with. This allows you to craft quite a lot of things, such as your initial looting augment, a light shield, few weapons, importantly the basics of ammo, and a couple of utility things, whether that's healing with, bandages, shield recharges, and then the utility of light impact grenades. When it comes to gear benches, we have specific augments that we can craft. We can actually start crafting medium shields, and then at higher levels of augments. Next, for the gunsmith, obviously you can craft guns, but importantly, you can craft mods for those guns, like for example, extended mags. Extended light mag will be really good for your initial stitchers, or extended medium mag in regards to the rattler. These can have a huge impact on your early experience. For explosives, right now you start with very little in terms of options. Gas grenade, impact grenade, these are both going to be very good for clearing raiders that are holding a corner, which will happen all the time. We have the refiner, which is one of the most important things you can get. Basically, it's like upwards refining or upwards crafting, turning like small stuff like chemicals into more refined materials like crude explosives, like durable cloth that you'll need for higher level stuff. Then we have a utility station, just utility stuff. You can make a little smoke grenade, which obviously is going to be very important for extraction or hiding yourself when you're looting something. I think the zip line is going to be incredibly helpful, but you won't be able to do that until station level 2. Lastly, we have the medical lab, one of the most important things. We can make our basic bandages from fabric, shield recharges from rubber parts and arc power cells, an adrenaline shot for crossing the map with chemicals and plastic parts. Then you got the better stuff like sterilized bandages or maybe herbal, and the very impactful surge shield recharges. But the absolute basics here, you definitely want as soon as possible, the medical lab. Last topic for this is blueprints. Separate from the stations themselves, you have blueprints. You need to have the blueprint required for different weapons, materials, or even specific new gadget crafting. So you start with a limited list and you expand on the list of potential through the blueprints. Find them in raid, successfully extract with them, consume the blueprint, and learn the recipe. Now you can craft whatever that was if you have the materials and requirements from then on. Next, we have the skill tree. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I just think there's a few obvious things for an initial setup. You can look at builds and long-term plans if you want, but I still think it's not up for debate. They did end up leaving in-round crafting in the skill tree, so it's like the first thing that I wanted to pick up, because having this in the team or in solo is a real game changer for being able to create better things in the middle of a raid. There's also a higher level version of this, Traveling Tinkerer, which I like the look of longer term. After that, maybe it's more up for debate. But personally, I feel like you need to go mobility for marathon runner for less stamina cost moving around, and youthful lungs, increasing your max stamina. It's a real game changer. This can then lead into carry the momentum. You do a sprint dodge roll, and then after that, you can sprint without consuming stamina for a bit, which is really cool and really impactful. When we're low level, you're going to feel that you can't run around for very long, and this has a huge impact on that. Long-term goals, I like the idea of going into conditioning. Reducing the weight of shields is going to be hugely impactful. Gentle pressure is nice, but I really like proficient prior to breach doors and containers faster. You'll be wanting to do that a lot. Leading into a little extra for extra resources when breaching, and loaded arms to have a huge impact on your encumbrance with equipped weapons. On the other hand, you have survival, which has so much great stuff too, like broad shoulders for increased max weight, looters look for faster looting, and obviously traveling tinkerer for more field crafting. But if you want to get XP early, be aware that searching everything goes a long way. Opening a container is like 200 XP. Same thing for looting an arc. If you loot a raider body or a probe, you get 500 XP for both of those. And it doesn't matter whether you killed it or it's already been looted by a friend or some complete random. You can get a lot of XP just opening something and closing it very quickly. So by spam looting everything you see, even if you're not taking stuff, you get a lot of initial XP to get these initial things online. Now a quick word on your own unique loadout versus a free loadout. Your own loadout goes a long way. You can have a proper augment with the benefits that it provides, like the looting augment here. You could go from a light shield to a medium or potentially a heavy. You get to bring in 2 different ammo types to split what you're actually using for your resources, and have reliable healing and utility items, which has a huge impact. Not to mention the safe pocket. Anything in there will be kept even if you die. So the moment you find a dog collar, you put it in there, you're guaranteed to get that upgrade for Scrappy, even if you die. Then you have the free loadout by comparison. This gives you an RNG setup and importantly, the free loadout augment. If you survive with this augment, it's actually a tradable item. Bring it to the clinic trader and you can see that you can buy combat or looting or tactical augments for coins, just shy 2,000, or trade 1 free loadout augment, which is free. So that's what I do. I do a free run, then upgrade it by doing this trade to something of relevance for me, and then run a real loadout after that. Little warning about free loadouts though, you have a hard limit of 35 kg total carry weight. Meanwhile, with a looting augment, you have 50 kg. That 15 kg is massive as a difference. Next, when it comes to the weapon loadout, I like to run 2 weapons in particular, and I recommend you would, especially in these early days. This splits up your ammo, which is going to be in limited supply initially anyway. So if you find light ammo, great, that'll work for your light ammo gun. Maybe you find heavy ammo instead, great. And this is the setup that I think is best for an initial run because it covers your bases. You have a close range light ammo weapon with something like a sticher, and then obviously the ferro is so reliable and so good in many scenarios. When you're dealing with arc, it becomes your heavy ammo use. This has great arc armor penetration, dealing great damage or stripping the armor off of a target. Then you could swap to your light ammo weapon and actually deal reasonable damage into it. This setup gives me a close and far range setup as well, at least to a functional level. The ferro is incredibly efficient with heavy ammo because it's one shot at a time, so you don't need a massive amount. But obviously you could run all kinds of setups. You could have 2 close range weapons with a shotgun and a submachine gun. You could have a proper scoped rifle and more of an assault rifle setup. As long as you've got 2 weapons that serve different purposes and have 2 different ammo types, that is the best way to use your 2 slots. There are 6 ammo types and different purposes though. So first up we have light ammo. This is effective against raiders that aren't covered in like special arc armor and is considered very bad against arc armor. But to be specific, this doesn't mean worthless. In fact, it works great against non-armored arc parts. So if you're already stripped off, you're already shooting exposed parts, it's actually fine to use against arc. Just not good at all against armored parts specifically. Medium ammo, which is somewhat effective against both. Heavy ammo, which is very effective against arc, and overperformed actually in the server slam against raiders. So certain weapons using heavy ammo have been nerfed. Shotgun ammo for close range weapons, great for that purpose. Then you've got launcher ammo and energy ammo, which are both going to be really effective at arc armor stripping specifically. So very relevant against tougher arc enemies. Okay, that's the pre and out of raid section. Now let's talk about the first few raids. Raids themselves last for 30 minutes, but you might actually spawn in during a second wave, which means you start nearer to the 15 to 20 minute mark. Look at the top to see. The 2-wave spawn system means the raids will always feel like it's got player life in it. Even if a lot of players extracted within say the first 10 minutes, the second wave revives it. The downside of spawning in as that second wave though is that locations will have been interacted with, looted and otherwise. So if you see that you're in the second wave, be more cautious when you approach any location. Naturally, we want to gain a healthy stock of XP in the early runs to get the basic skill tree unlocks going. You get XP from dealing damage to arc, destroying them, looting containers, even when a container, by the way, is currently looted. Even if a player's clearly already been there, if it's your first time opening it, you get a burst of XP. So I actually recommend you search every container in the first couple of raids, and whenever you have the spare moment, because XP is XP. Be aware then, when you're in the game doing something, the map has dynamic map markers. So if you are holding a battery, you can open the map and it'll show you where the nearby dump location for that is. Maybe you're near an arc career to loot, it'll show on the map while you're close. Then when it comes to looting, just check items and look at its quality. It'll also tell you the material type and where you can find more of them and what it's going to be used for. The more you understand loot, the better it will be for you. Be aware that everything can be dismantled to a certain degree, breaking it down into different crafting materials, which will stack in greater numbers, letting you manage mid-raid better. The rule is that dismantled parts actually weighs less than the individual big battery or whatever it was you broke down. However, it is important to know that if you get out with that and you choose to dismantle it in the hideout, it will result in more recyclable parts. So here's the quick way to look at it. You salvage in the middle of a raid, which is okay, but not the best. But if you get that stuff out of the raid, you get to recycle it instead of salvage it, which provides you greater returns when you do that. Remember that the valuables are marked with a diamond, and so you definitely want those in the early days when we need money. In regards to the arc themselves, there's a great variety of them, and right now we're hoping that there's going to be more in the full release as we dive in. Here's the ones that I know and information about them. The rocketeer is one of the most deadly in the game. It fires rockets in bursts at your location, destroying you. My advice is to hide behind walls, bait the shots into terrain, then swing it. Target one turbine at a time, breaking its armor, and then shooting the exposed one. Remember, energy and rocket ammo strips armor super well. Leapers spot you and leap from massive distances and land on you. Try to roll out of the way wherever it's going to land, avoid contact, and use walls. You want to target the center eye. The bastion and bombardier are slow-moving ground units that fire heavy machinery or explosives. They have yellow knee joints and a yellow vulnerability on their back. That's what you want to target. Next you have rollers, like the fireball and the pops. The fireball will roll around and try to get close to fire flamethrowers. The pop will roll up to you and self-destruct. Destroy both before they can do that. Be aware of ambusher units, like the ticks. These are little spiders that jump onto you, reduce your movement, and you have to rip them off yourself. They die in one shot to a melee. Turrets will also surprise you. They're outside bases, inside bases. There are a bunch in the zipline shaft in the server slam, so just clear your corners when inside bases. We have the various flying units. The wasp is a competitive flying drone that fires a variety of ammo types. Destroy the turbines on one side and that will bring it down. The hornet by comparison is bigger and slower and has armor across the front side turbines. Try to target the back ones. These also shoot tasers that you can dodge roll at the last moment. Of course, the snitch doesn't actually directly fight you. The whole point of it is to draw attention to you and call for backup. Target these first. Oh, and of course, there's the queen, the ridiculous monster that only 77 of those were destroyed in the server slam. You need the best weapons and insane amounts of ammo to defeat it. More info on this once we get into the game. In regards to extracting, the two main extractions are elevators and raider hatches. Of course, elevators require someone to go up and press the button, and then there's loud sounds and a voice, drawing attention. Smoke grenades here are fantastic to cover where you're going to enter and leave. Players can extract alone, together with random people, even when in a downed state. In the server slam, it was surprisingly effective to go up to an elevator, call it, and then call out and VoIP, hey, does anyone want to extract with me instead of fight? It surprised me how many times people came out of the bushes to be like, hey, yeah, you know what? I won't fight you. If you want to avoid a fight, it genuinely works. Anyway, the other option is raider hatches. You need a raider hatch key beforehand, but they're very different. You can access these and be using them very quickly, but they only open for a short time, so don't get left behind. If you want to know where any extract is, open the map, have a look. Information about each one and how long it's left will be there. But obviously, only one will be available near the end, and that's going to be chaos. If you run out of time on the map essentially starts to close by dropping huge nukes everywhere, so you want to get off the map before that starts. Lastly, here are a bunch of general tips that I think are useful. The melee weapon serves important purposes. If you use them against arcs, it's incredibly effective like heavy ammo. Did you know that there's a horizontal swing and a vertical swing? It's left click and right click to do the different ones. Against raiders, it deals straight health damage and ignores shields, so if you're in a pinch, could be an option. We all know we can dodge roll, and it's great for evading attacks or clearing a corner you're not sure about. But of course, you can also reduce fall damage by rolling right as you hit the ground, if you're falling from a reasonable height. We also probably all know, but I'll say it, mantling a ledge when falling stops fall damage. So dropping from a staircase to a much lower staircase is an incredible quick way to move around. Or dropping and grabbing a zip line before you hit the ground. Be aware that when you get downed, arc enemies completely stop paying attention to you. So you could force an extract by, running up, triggering it, getting downed in the process, crawling in and extracting while downed. Couple obvious tips. Holster your gun, you run faster and for longer, obvious. But while you've got your weapon holstered and you're running quicker, remember you can slide downhill, and this actually lets you recover stamina while moving. It is a really useful technique if there's ever an area where you can slide downhill. They did nerf sliding in general though in the server slam, so experiment with this in the live version now. You can swap your POV by pressing X. This lets you peek on the left side when you need to. You have a flashlight, insane in dark areas. In the middle of a fight, turn it on. You'll be able to see people so much easier, but it obviously reveals where you are, so don't do it until you're firing at someone. And of course, collect arc power cells from arc. Put these on your quick slot and use them, you get 2 shield back, which is awesome, or you could even use them in crafting to generate shield recharges, which will be 4. So obviously, super important resource. Killing arcs, taking these, using them is going to be a key part to sustaining through a raid. But that brings me to the end. There is so much more I could say that we're going to put into proper videos on that topic to be just clear and concise. But I hope this gives you some strong confidence in this first day of the game. If you enjoyed the video, you got something out of it, drop a like. And if you have any other tips for new players like we all are, let us know in the comments. You might help someone. Until next time then, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and enjoy Arc Raiders.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.